Hey everyone, so today I have a swatch video, an initial first impression video for you guys, and the product that I'm going to be doing that for is the Gwen palette by Urban Decay, and I'm so excited to have this because there's been so much hype around this. I've been a huge fan of Gwen from way back in the day. For no doubt, I'm Just a Girl was probably like, I thought that was like my anthem song when I was growing up. I was like, this song is about my life. But yes, I've been obsessed with her. I love her style. She's not afraid to take risks or anything like that. And I got so excited when I heard that she was pairing with Urban Decay. And I feel like this is a good time to put this out because I know everyone was raving about this when it first came out, like about a month or two ago, but now she's getting ready to launch the rest of her collection, which includes a blush, bronzer, and highlight palette, a brow palette, and then she also has a line of lip liners and lipsticks, so I feel like it's also a good time to bring this guy up again so you guys can have an idea and be reminded of the eyeshadow palette. By the way, if you hear like any barking or whining in the background, I'm so sorry. Like my neighbor's dog downstairs just barks and cries all day, and I'm pretty sure the poor thing has separation anxiety, and I just feel like so bad listening to him just like crying all day long. So if you guys hear anything, that's what it is. And also don't mind my little hair antennas that are like sticking up everywhere. I straightened my hair for the first time in like, I don't know, probably a month or two, and my hairs are just going crazy. Anyways, let's get into like the review of this palette. So I really like the packaging on this. It's nice and simplistic because like the thing with Gwen style is that it's bold and out there, but it's also simple at the same time, and I feel like that's really reflected in this palette because it has a nice gold frame around it, and then it's white and black, and it's just really nice, simple, and clean looking. The packaging is very durable. This is like really thick that this is made out of, and I can just tell it's just really heavy duty compared to the Vice palette that I have back here. So even though this palette is smaller, it weighs a lot more than this Vice palette, and this thing just feels like super flimsy compared to this. Like this is seriously heavy duty material that this is made out of. This is still very nice and all, but just compared, like, it's pretty heavy. The packaging for this is pretty on point as typical with most Urban Decay palettes. It does have a nice full-size mirror. I still have the plastic on mine. So it does have a nice big mirror, and then it does stand up on its own, but if you tip it back, if you have it like a little too far back, it will just kind of fall over, but if you have it like this, it's gonna stay up. So that's another thing to keep in mind, is that once it gets a little too far, it's just going to tilt all the way back. So let's get into the shadows here. So I was a little underwhelmed at first when I first saw the colors for this. So I saw a picture of it because, again, when you think of Gwen Stefani, you think of her as like a risk taker and like bold and stuff like that. And I was just kind of like, I didn't really know how to feel about these shades because I felt like they were so neutral, and there's so many neutral palettes out there. But the one thing that sets this palette aside from the other neutral palettes is that it's made for fair skin people. If you are a pale girl or a fair skinned person like I am, you know the struggle is real when it comes to eyeshadows. You see people doing makeup tutorials like with a naked palette or something, and they take Dark Horse and they put it on and it doesn't look that dark, and then you put Dark Horse in your crease and it's just like a big brown muddy looking mess because it's just so much more pigment. Like the pigment just shows up so much more intensely on pale people, so it can be a little bit difficult if you're trying to go for like a more natural look or a more subtle look. And that's what really like was the selling factor for me with this palette. If you're not super pale or super fair skinned, you might just kind of feel about this palette. And then the one thing that I'm most excited about are the highlights in here, because I just feel like no one understands, or like people just think that I'm weird when I say it's really hard to find a highlight shade that's light enough to use as a highlight. Like, yeah, you can get away with using them on your lid, but it's like not as white or as reflective as you want it to be. And I really feel like this palette is gonna have good highlighter shades, especially inner corner highlights. And I actually just heard Nikki Tutorials talking about this in a video, and I was just like, yes, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not the only one that's like, highlights are never light enough when you have pale skin. So I'm really excited to see if that will work out for me, and I have a feeling it will, because these shadows are just absolutely absolutely gorgeous. And it does have a couple pops of color in there. And then the one thing that I'm not a fan of is that it has blackout, which is in about almost every single Urban Decay palette. But I mean, it makes sense if you're traveling or whatever and you just want to bring a palette with you. It makes sense to have it in the palette. It's just a really repetitive color, but it is one of the blackest of black eyeshadows out there, so it makes sense that they keep reusing it. That's just my one little criticism with the colors. Other than that, I think that they're all absolutely beautiful. So let's go ahead and get into the swatches. So here is a close-up of the palette. Normally the eyeshadow names are listed below the shadows, but here they're listed above, which really doesn't make a difference unless if you're a beauty vlogger and you're trying to film a tutorial and you'll get confused with the name. So that's just something that's new with this palette, and there are 15 eyeshadows and 12 of them are new and were helped designed by Gwen Stefani, so that's pretty damn awesome. So let's go ahead and get into some swatches. Going across the top row, first there is Blonde, which is a pale beige with a pink iridescent shift. Next is Bathwater, which is a pale beige with a gold pearl. Then we have Skimp, which is a pale nude satin. And there's Steady, which is a medium rose with a metallic gold shift. And then the last color in the row is Punk, which is a reddish brown matte. So in the second row going across, we have Baby, which is a cool metallic rose. Anaheim, one of my personal favorites, is a light taupe brown matte. Stark, which is a nude pink matte. Zone, which is a medium brown matte. And the last one in that row is Serious, which is a smoky gray with an iridescent floating pearl. Alright, first up for the last row is Pop, which is a pale coral with an iridescent sparkle, which I actually love this eyeshadow a lot. It's definitely a textured shadow, and it looks really nice if you just apply it with your finger on top of your lid. This is definitely the one color that I think would have fallout, so sometimes with shadows like that, it's best to apply them with a finger instead of a brush. So after Pop is Harajuku, which is a metallic blue-pink with an iridescent micro shimmer. Then we have Danger, which is a metallic royal blue with a blue micro sparkle. Then we have 1987, which is a bright metallic yellow gold. And then lastly is Blackout, which is the blackest black matte out there. And I really love these shadows. They are super pigmented, not disappointed at all. Pretty typical of Urban Decay shadows. Alright, so I'm really excited to try these shadows out because, as typical of Urban Decay, they're like super pigmented, and let me tell you, they felt so buttery and smooth when I was swatching them onto my hand. The only thing is as I mentioned, was that this last row here of like where the actual colors are, is that there is a lot of fallout, and that is because it is a textured eyeshadow. So I don't really think I'm going to have an issue with fallout with the first two rows. But with the last row, because it is textured, you are going to get a little bit more mess and some fallout with that. And I'm relieved that it doesn't seem like it's going everywhere, and hopefully it's not super powdery and fallouty, because I feel like the last few palettes by Urban Decay that I purchased have been crazy with fallout, like the Naked 3 palette and then this Vice, is it the Vice 2 or Vice 3? So in the Vice 2 or Vice 3 palette, there tends to be a lot of fallout, so... Now, the retail price of this is $58, which is pretty typical of an Urban Decay palette, but to be honest, I feel like they cheaped out a little bit with this, because normally with the $60 palette, you get an eyeshadow brush and you get like an eyeshadow primer, or sometimes they give you a mascara or a lip gloss or a lipstick. They normally give you like little minis of at least something and a double-ended brush. The eyeshadows is all that you get. And I want to say that it was still a little bit more just because the packaging is so heavy duty. So maybe that's why this is a little bit more expensive. And this doesn't have, like if you compare this to the Vice palettes, it doesn't have nearly as many eyeshadows And the Vice palettes, I feel like they're $60 and they come with a lot more eyeshadows and you get a double-ended brush. So that's something to sort of keep in mind if you are new to Urban Decay and you're kind of figuring out what palette to get. This may not be the best one for your money, but I mean, if you're a fan of Gwen Stefani and you already have a collection of Urban Decay palettes, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer here, especially if you are on the fair side or pale side. So all in all, my final thoughts with this Gwen palette is that I think it is going to be well worth the money. I feel like it's going to be a well-used palette of mine, and I can't wait to try this out and use it for tutorials and stuff like that. And then, by the way, if you guys were curious what I was wearing today, I'm wearing my Lorac Matte Pro palette on my eyes. But I will be doing tutorials with this. I can't wait to play around with this tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!